3, 2, 1.
今夜もミュージック君へのラッキー笑い合って抱き合って幸せにほらなれるように
Hello and welcome to another EWB with Crafts and Vindy, our second one. Also our second one on Shonen. Yeah, this is a fun video. We'll want to die by the end of this one.
God, I wonder which video is going to end up being worse, the Vloshry video or this one.
That's an excellent question, and I don't have an answer for you.
The fact that, like, you know, okay, I think I have my answer already, but I'll explain it once we get into it. But, yeah, this video is interesting because I mean, you put it best with what you said to me earlier, I think.
Which it was basically this video is like say you make a shonen clown takes a bingo card and then you made a video trying to fill out as many of the bingo spots as possible. That is this video because it like hits so many check marks of like dumb shit. Right, it's kind of astonishing because it goes through so many series and then like almost deliberately picks on like the most normie dumb shit thing to say. So it's really funny.
Well, yeah, I mean, other problems I have with it, like I think just in general, are like there's a clear lack of research put into the video. While like they make claims that are very easy to actually find and see if they're true or not.
It is like when did this video come out? 2018 or something like that. Like it's not exactly a recent video, but it's still like stupid. Like
I mean, when you're talking, it's 2017.
Oh, 2017.
But when you're talking about things in the 80s and the 70s, I don't think.
Oh no, the research was
being done.
Like, it was all available. That's the thing.
Yeah, anyone could have looked this shit up, and he didn't. And I think it's really clear that there is like a lack of base knowledge or research. That then when very large generalized claims are made, they don't work. I mean, in that way, it kind of reminds me of the Cross video, right? Mm-hmm. Where there were like these large generalizations that were made. Just like with the Cross video, it was like not knowing that ink cards were common. And with this video, I think it's a little bit worse.
Because there's more broad claims made that are just they're not true.
And more things, that I think are like just objectively wrong.
Yeah, well, and one thing I'm just talking about the title real quick because it's Shounen Anime's Biggest Problem. Like I think we talked about before. It's like one if you mostly, especially with the series he discusses here, like if you've watched the anime, then I just don't think you are a worthwhile authority on because you've watched a bad version of the thing.
I will say I think. Oh, sorry.
Well, no. Maybe what you're gonna say is because he doesn't actually talk about anime in this video. He talks exclusively about manga that he's read. So it's like it's a clickbait title in the maybe not the best way because it's not even talking about it's not talking about what the title is about in the way it advertises. But what were you gonna say?
That's what I was gonna say. Is like I think if you wanted to call it Shonen like if he had made a video called Shonen Anime's Biggest Problem, and I'm just gonna spoil it. This video is not about filler arcs. And he had sat down and been like, the fact that they're weekly adaptations that have to have filler arcs is the biggest problem with shonen anime. I'd be like, you know what, dude? That you know what? Fair enough. That's a good point. Like, I understand your problem. You should probably be reading the manga, but I understand that why that's like, what you would consider the biggest problem with shonen anime. But he doesn't say that. And I think his point is a lot worse. And I also think that this video, I mean, how many views does this video have? It has a shit ton,
It's got like over 800,000. So not quite a million, but quite a few.
It has 853,000 views. And I think that, even just looking at some of the comments, I already want to kill myself. Like, here's the second most popular comment that showed up for me. Rock Lee could have been one of the best shonen characters of all time and could have made some arcs 5 times better, but wasting huge potential is what Naruto did best. And, like, I think that is a great example of the level of
not only just like bad takes, but like the common bad takes, the normie bad takes. Like you've heard that's why I can't get too mad at like I'll tell you the part that made me the most mad in the video when we get there. And it's a dumb thing to get mad at, but like part of the reason like that's the one that got me the most mad was because so much else of the video I've just heard a million times before, and I'm gonna hear it a million times again. So while it's still stupid to hear again, like, I've already gotten, like, that I've already been there and done that, you know?
Right. It's like people saying Rock Lee Guard is the best fight in Naruto. It's like, okay, well, I mean, you're okay.
Yeah. Anyway, let us begin the video. Brace yourself.
This is a video examining the storytelling of the most popular manga Shonen Jump in an attempt to learn from their successes and failures. I mainly created this for myself and for others who want to more fully understand how to create satisfying long-form stories. I will be spoiling major story elements for every series I mention, so consider this your warning in advance.
Okay, really quickly, I do gotta pause it. Just to explain one little thing that I think... I this isn't a big deal, because I personally don't think spoilers are as big a deal as some do. I think if you're ever making a video and you're going to mention spoilers for multiple series, instead of saying, I'm spoiling all the series I'm talking about, I think it's better if you, like, say spoilers, and if you don't want to say them all out loud, that's fine, but say spoilers for these series that are going to be on screen. And, you know, put words of, like, all the series you're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
That way people don't have to get halfway into a video and be like, well, now I can't finish the video because they haven't seen this series.
Right. Exactly. You know? And it's like it's not hard to do time codes in the description. Are there time codes in the description? Probably not.
No, and the video has, what, 2 anime in the thumbnail? I think only Dragon Ball and Naruto are in the thumbnails. So there's even
right.
like...
So, and I never watched the Bleach portion of this video because I was about to... I first watched this before I read Bleach. So I didn't want to watch that part of the video, so I just skipped it. But, like...
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly the issue. Because, like, that's how I do spoilers. Like, for my character arc video... I put, like, here's the series I majorly spoiled. Here's some ones that maybe kind of get spoiled, like, if you're watching them. Like, and there's just a time code, like, a thing with the time codes at the beginning of the video. And, like, that's it. I don't bring it up for much longer than that. Like, and, because, yeah, you don't know what the video is going to talk about. Because it talks about, like, 5 or 6 series. And it's like,
and it sucks to get halfway into a video and be like, oh, well, now he's talking about this series that I haven't read or watched. Now I have to stop the video or get spoiled on something. When instead, I think if you just put them at the start, right? Just put on screen Dragon Ball, Naruto, I think One Piece,
Hunter, basically the big 3, basically everything that's like super big except for like JoJo, pretty much.
Right. That you can just put it on the screen, people can know and decide before they watch it if they want to watch or not. And then that's just like a minor thing. I don't think that's a big deal, but I do want to point that out as like, anytime I see a YouTuber do it like that, I'm like, yeah, that's definitely like just that should be like the standard for how you kind of treat that.
At least, well, because, you know, as we've I think, you know, it's been talked about before, like, if it's just a video, like a Love Live video, like, obviously you're going to expect, like, it's going to talk about everything, you know, like,
right.
Yeah, why would you, I'm only partway, like, 3 episodes of Love Live, better watch this video on this character I don't recognize, like, no, you're not going to do that. But for a general video you don't know, like, especially, like you said, with a thumbnail, it's 2 series out of, like, the 6 or 7 that are brought up, so,
right.
Anyway.
All right.
Now, we may as well start at the beginning of Shonen as we know it. Dragon Ball created an entire genre almost single-handedly, and Akira Toriyama deserves all the respect in the world for it.
Okay, let's just stop right there. Because there's some... Yeah, no, exactly. Well, like, this is another common problem we've had on the EWBs in general. It purely comes from a Western perspective and acts like that is the only perspective.
Yeah, I do think that is like something that I didn't realize was as prevalent a problem in AniTube as I've learned it is through these EWBs, right? Is like how big of an issue people looking at anime through only their Western perspective is.
Mm-hmm.
And my problem is, like, with this, Dragon Ball is the first shonen, or whatever the fuck you say, is like, you can look at interviews with Toriyama, right? Where he's like, oh yeah, Kinnikuman was a big inspiration. What else does he say? It's like Ring Nikakeru, everyone knows, is a big inspiration. Or I guess not everyone, but anyone who actually...
See, I actually didn't know that those were... Like, he specifically mentioned them as inspirations.
I'm pretty sure he mentioned Kinnikuman. I don't know if he mentioned Ring Nikakeru.
Kinnikuman is the one I wanted to bring up specifically because... it ended in 1987, which, for reference, is the same year that, like, the Saiyan arc was going on. At least, like, Goku versus Nappa and Vegeta. Mostly because, like... because I always think about that because Goku uses the Kaioken in that arc, which is the first like instance of Dragon Ball using like a transformation, because he does show the quote of the Uzaru form, the monkey, but the quote he shows in this video is of like, oh, it's more like a werewolf kind of thing. So it's not quite the same as like a shonen transformation. But Kinnikuman did it first, and it ended the same year that Dragon Ball used its first transformation. Kinnikuman also has a lot of tournaments. Kinnikuman also has power levels. So like, you know, Toriyama was very much taking influence from what was going on in the magazine at the same time he was writing manga in the magazine. But no one's read Kinnikuman or knows it's a thing beyond, oh, Ultimate Muscle, wasn't that on when I was a kid on 4Kids? Like, that's about it.
It's one of those things where I think, like, you know, I'm not saying that you need to read Kinnikuman to talk about shonen, but I think that if you're going to go out of your way and talk about, you know, Shonen Jump and say, we're going to look at some of the most popular Shonen Jump anime and try to dissect them, you should do research into what were Shonen Jump's early manga. What were some of the manga that defined the magazine, you know?
Yeah.
And it doesn't take that long into actually looking into it to see, you know, Kinnikuman show up, or like even when did JoJo's Part 1 start? I'm actually really curious now.
It was around, like JoJo, Saint Seiya, Fist of the North Star, they were all around the same kind of time period. So, it was a little different.
I'm really curious Part 1 started 86. It started after Dragon Ball, but before Dragon Ball Z would have started. Which or
around the same time,
arc.
Or around the same time, basically, yeah.
So you know, even then, like, you can't really say like, oh, well, Dragon Ball kind of started this genre if, you know, JoJo's Part 1 was starting at the same time, and especially because, like, when you look at the first bit of Dragon Ball is so
different than Z, right?
Right, like it's just a gag comedy manga, just like Dr. Slump was.
Okay, with more of a focus on action, but still much less than Z, which is what really like codified what Dragon Ball like is to a lot of people.
Right, and Fist of the North Star started in '83, so that also started before Dragon Ball even started serialization.
Right.
So those are just, you know, I would say that Fist of the North Star is definitely popular enough that you should know about it, and you could just look up, like I just did now, the publishing date, and see, oh wow, it predates Dragon Ball by a year.
Yeah, and well, we're just talking about Jump, because like when he said, "Oh, the start of Shonen as we know it," Ashino Joe, right? Because like there's other Shonen magazines, you know, Tezuka was a huge in manga in general, and
there's
anime.
a reason that the Tezuka Award is, you know, given in Jump, right? Like, I'm pretty sure that's like
that is an award for new manga, I think.
In Jump, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And
well, so I think it's a general manga award, but you know, okay. Jump, you know, it's a popular magazine, so you know, yeah, absolutely. Like anime and manga history didn't start with Dragon Ball just because that was the first series you knew about as anime.
Or the first series that gained popularity in the West, right?
Like, or the popularity did, like Speed Racer. You know, Speed Racer was a thing before, you know, well before Dragon Ball, but that was also like not as successful in a different time period, and you know, it wasn't at the same level as Dragon Ball, which became huge. You know,
well, and I think Dragon Ball, like unlike Speed Racer, I feel like Dragon Ball was the first one that got big, like as anime.
True. Yeah,
right?
where Speed Racer was just another. It was maybe a weird cartoon, you know.
Right.
It wasn't, the people watching it weren't like, or at least, you know, in the public conscious, it wasn't anime. It wasn't, you know, in the same way. So.
And that's definitely, I think, the problem of like this Western perspective. I was like, Dragon Ball was the first big shonen battle series that got big here, so that means that it was the first shonen battle series. It's like, no, it takes, you know, 10 seconds of actually looking to prove that wrong.
Yep. So anyway.
But while he did many things well, there were also many mistakes made in this series that others would eventually make as well. The most prominent of these issues was Escalation. Once Dragon Ball made a full transition into being predominantly an action series, Toriyama seems to have felt pressure to constantly one-up what he had done before. I'm not sure if that was just his own pressure or a pressure that his editors were putting on him, but that's how it comes across.
Here's my problem with what he's saying. And I've talked about this before in a bunch of different instances. I don't know how many of them are public, but I know I've mentioned this before to at least you and multiple times, is like this idea of like escalation or power creep is another word that you see thrown around a lot. Let's just talk about how a narrative works and how stakes in that narrative work. And I'm going to use Dragon Ball as an example really quickly because I think you can illustrate the point really well. So after the Demon King Piccolo arc, right, Vegeta comes in. if Vegeta is weaker than Piccolo, why do we care? Why would there be any narrative tension? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
So that means Vegeta has to be stronger than Piccolo. So Goku has to get stronger than Vegeta to beat him for the arc. So then, but the story of Dragon Ball and the themes didn't wrap up at the end of the Saiyan saga. So now we have more because he's trying to tell this longer story and tell more of it. So now we get to the Frieza saga. Well, if Frieza's not stronger than Vegeta, there's no narrative tension. So Frieza has to be like stronger. It's the same as when you play you don't complain about, oh, when I play a JRPG, I go play Final Fantasy VII, why do I have to level up to kill Sephiroth? Why is this boss that I fight later in the game a higher level than this boss, the first boss? Like, that's not how it fucking works. You level up and you get stronger, and that's part of the point of playing it like an RPG, a video game. And just like that, that's part of the point of these series, is watching these characters get stronger, and the stakes get bigger, and the scale get higher. And if that's like fine, or if you would prefer maybe a slice of life series that's not like that, there's a million of those. But in this kind of action-driven series, escalation has to be a part of it.
Yeah,
right.
And so the angle I was because that's absolutely true. Though the angle I was going to argue for that was actually in like how a lot of these stories, the way the fact that the characters get stronger in themselves is tied to the character and their arc.
Right.
Like they get stronger physically in a fight, but they also get stronger as people. So like inherently what will happen is like in order to be the strongest, they also have to be the strongest person. Like the example.
Yep.
Yeah, like I was going to use One Piece as an example where like Luffy making the choice that he failed at with Sabaody versus Luffy making the choice to take Katakuri away during Whole Cake Island, like that is like Luffy's stronger as a person against Katakuri, and he also has power up, so he's able to fight Katakuri. Like I had someone ask, like, oh well, if it's just themes, then why would the character not be able to win in this story? And I'm like, well, yeah, he's not as strong as a person because the character growth matches their powers. So like the power escalation isn't just like because the story needs more power. Like I didn't like the way it was talking about it, where like, oh yeah, Toriyama must have felt pressured. Like he's seeing the result and he's trying to contrive a reason for it that makes sense. No research, of course, just assumption.
Right.
And
God, it's like the fucking last EWB we did.
Right, like it's just no critical thinking whatsoever. But and you can argue maybe Dragon Ball doesn't tie enough of its strength to power increases to character moments, which I don't think is accurate. Maybe not in every single instance, but it's not like wholly inaccurate to say that. But and you could also, like we talked about power escalation last time, where it's like, okay, maybe it's too much for you personally, because like how strong they should be isn't necessarily matched by the kind of things they do, which I brought up the One Punch Man comparison. But like that's not a problem with like power escalation is always brought up as an inherent problem. It's bad that power escalation happens at all, and that's not a good view.
No, it is bad. It's just like it's bad when I play fucking Kingdom Hearts and I have to level up. Like, why is that a thing, right? Why do I level up in my games? I just want to stay level 1 the whole time. No stakes.
Exactly.
I think even for Dragon Ball, right? If I wanted to make the point with Dragon Ball, the entire point of the series is the reason that Goku's the strongest is because he has the best mentality about fighting, right? The reason that Vegeta can never surpass Goku is that the way Vegeta sees fighting and the way Vegeta sees getting stronger is different from the way Goku sees it, and that Goku sees it in what the series wants to show is like the best way, where he does it because he wants to be stronger and he likes doing it, and he wants to do it for the right reasons, right? For people. Well,
he's able to protect and he's able to enjoy it, which is the one thing that separates him from basically almost every character, which we'll talk about going forward. So I wasn't going to linger on that, but
yeah. Right.
What the series will inevitably say by making Goku the strongest, it's going to say something, and by escalating the power, there's inevitably something going on. So, but we'll talk about that because he talks about more stuff. So,
okay.
Toriyama has gone on record stating that he really just made up the story as he went along, and honestly, he did an amazing job when you learn that's how he did it. It's genuinely impressive how his stories felt as tight as they did, despite his lack of planning. That takes real skill. However, I think that method eventually caught up with him. I think things went pretty well for a large portion of the series, but the real issues hit during the Frieza saga, specifically towards the end of it. Power levels began to dominate the story, as well as the concept of transforming into a stronger version of yourself. Neither of these ideas are inherently bad, in my opinion, but they're the easiest symptoms of the problem to point to. Escalating stakes quickly became synonymous with citing larger numbers instead of creating dramatic stakes, which I believe Akira Toriyama noticed, which is why he dropped power levels completely after Frieza was gone.
So first of all, the idea that there isn't tension in the Frieza saga. So let's just go through a couple things that I think add dramatic tension to the story, outside of just, haha, number go up. First of all, Krillin dies. Bulma,
Yep.
Krillin, and Gohan are trapped on a planet with really no way to leave.
And no, like, ability to defend themselves properly, considering they're so outmatched even by, like, just Frieza's lieutenants for a good portion of the, arc at least.
Then even if you want to look at the fight between Goku and Frieza, there's the fact that the planet's going to blow up. And so now there's a time limit on the fight. And even if Goku's stronger, he has to end the fight quickly because he has to not die. Right? Like, I feel like there's all sorts of
it's not just about the characters being strong or weak or how strong are the ki blasts they can throw. It's not just that at all. Like,
right. Especially because Goku going Super Saiyan 1, the entire point is that he's upset that he failed to protect his friend, and he's angry, and it's that anger that is allowing him to continue to grow better because he failed to protect someone, right? So there's things there that are, I don't want to say that, like, they're super, like, I would say they're pretty easy to pick up on if you're just paying attention to what the series is trying to tell you, that aren't just burr number go up.
Right. So a couple things I wanted to point out. One was because the way he talks about planning at the start, earlier, and how Toriyama, despite lack of plan, like, there's just this very, like, overvaluing of planning because people, don't understand how writing works. Like, if it's not planned, it must be bad, or but, like, and he's not saying that, but the way he talks about it sort of gets at that general issue. I find where, like, it doesn't matter whether it was planned or not. It matters if it works. So,
right. Well, I also don't think, like, you can actually, like the idea that anyone could plan a multi-year manga like that all the way out from the beginning is insane, right? Like, even Oda's gone on record saying that originally One Piece was only supposed to have the Yonko, and he thought of the Shichibukai, and because of that, this series became what it is now, right?
Right. He had to go longer to introduce all the warlords, and because he felt like it wouldn't be right to just drop the 7 warlords and then not do anything with all of them, So he did, and now the story's longer.
And so it becomes this thing where I think I would go on record to say that sure, Kubo said that he had the final chapter of Bleach planned out from the beginning. But he didn't plan every single story thing, right?
Yeah, he didn't. He might not have known every single character that was in there, right?
Right. Like, Hitsugaya wouldn't have gotten as much screen time, I don't think, if he wasn't as insanely popular as he was. So Kubo felt like he wanted to give people who liked that character more of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think the idea that, it's impossible to plan a 10, 20-year-long manga, like that's just
writing evolves as you write it. Like, again, this is I think an issue with people who've never written anything, who don't know what it's like to write a story. Like, I'm writing a fanfic right now, and I just finished chapter 6 after throwing out an old idea for chapter 6. So it's like, that was bad. The planned idea was bad, so I had to plan something else and then write it. And I don't have a lot of things planned for later. I have general ideas. I'll deal with that when I get to it. But it's like, it's just how writing, like, and this isn't a story I'm planning to write for 10, 20 years. So, obviously for them it's going to be completely different. So.
Well, another thing that makes it different is, if Toriyama's writing a book for Dragon Ball and it was all one book, if he gets to Vegeta and is like, oh, I can make Goku an alien, he can go back in time and change things about the earlier chapters to maybe add more of like alien Goku as this idea. But when it's coming out weekly, so once he submits a chapter, it's out there into the ether and he can't change it. If he has this idea, he just has to work it into his story, and he can't go back and completely
a serial medium is inherently different than like film, where a lot of people come from in that regard, like with regards to reading and
right, because it's not all coming out at once or all planned at once. It's coming out over 15 years, so he has to be flexible enough that once I make a chapter, everything I say in that chapter is a part of the story,
Yes.
whether I like it or not, and I just have to move on with that.
Right. So, and one of the things, there was a bit of a contradiction. So he claims that power levels dominated the story, and then he says that, oh, they're just here in like this, up to this arc. So power levels dominated the story for 2 arcs. One of them, the Saiyan arc, relatively short. Namek was pretty long, and then there's 2 more arcs in the story where like they didn't
That are both, I think, longer than.
I don't think they're longer than Namek, but they're definitely longer than the Saiyan arc.
Well, Boo's definitely longer than both, and I think Cell is as well.
I thought they were pretty short when I remember thinking back.
I can look, but
So
I'm
check because for some reason I remember that, or at least they were really quick reads. Maybe that was it for me. But
they're definitely quick reads. But Dragonball. Oh look,
I remember feeling that they were like shorter than I felt they should have been.
that's okay. So Saiyan is volume 17 and 20. Vegeta Saga. Okay. The Namek Saga goes from volume 21 to. Wait, shit. God, this is so fucking terrible. To 28.
Okay.
Then the Cell Saga is 28 to 35.
Okay, so they are about the same length. Okay.
And then the final, the Buddha is 36 to the end of the manga, which is, I'm pretty sure, 40 something?
42.
42.
Yeah. So they're all about like 6, 7, 8, volumes long, give or take. So, okay, so yeah, they're all about the same length, but like, and the power levels in general even overstated because it's like, I think you pointed out like, they're the bad guys are the only ones who actually care about power levels. So it's like,
Right. Like, Goku does not give a fuck about power levels. It's only ever villains. And once, even a great example to look at is once Vegeta stops being a bad guy, he stops caring about power levels.
right, because it's not like it's just a number that can change, and like it's basically represents threat level, because when Goku gets mad, his power level goes up because he's more of a threat. Like it's really not as it's not as big of a deal. And
you can also look at it as like they take power levels too seriously, and because of that, they're not having fun fighting because they're putting too much emphasis into the number. Just like people fucking reading and watching the series, they complain too much about the fucking power levels and are having fun and doing what they're supposed to be doing and understanding what the series is saying because they're too obsessed with the fucking number. Like,
and another thing I literally just thought about is how like the fact that the protagonists are able to fluctuate their power levels, they're able to not be a threat, where the bad guys are so focused on destruction and being a shithead that they're always like on,
right?
Like they're always dangerous. So it's like there's just a fundamental, like there's such a big difference in how like the protagonists and the antagonists are with power levels that there's a few interesting things to think about there, but power levels bad. Sorry. Whoops.
What stuck around, however, was transformation. Heroes and villains alike were an aesthetic change away from an instant power-up, something that would become a staple of not only the entirety of Dragon Ball, but shonen anime and manga as a whole. Stakes need to rise? Transformation! Heroes need more power? Here's a new transformation. Now the villain needs a transformation to counter that transformation, and then, it goes on and on and on. But again, these are just easy symptoms to point at. The real problem is the entire idea that everything needs to constantly escalate to begin with. The fact is, an action story doesn't benefit from consistent escalation, because eventually the bigger a problem becomes, the less meaning it tends to have. This entire planet will be destroyed is technically a much bigger problem than if we don't win, a character we love will die. On paper, one obviously matters more. In practice, smaller, more personal stakes leave much more of an impact on the viewer and are much more satisfying when resolved.
That's just not true. That's just factually not true.
See, and it's funny because later in the video he talks about how because you didn't rewatch the video, I did, but during the One Piece part he talks about how like the Paramount War is the biggest like stakes, but also the biggest personal stakes for Luffy. Like maybe you're onto something there about how the bigness of a story can also be matched by the emotional bigness of a story. Just saying.
It's just so insane, I think, because, like, the thing that really gets me about it is that that's just ignoring the fact that, like, I don't understand how someone could say that when if Goku loses, the Earth will be destroyed and everyone he cares about will die. I would say that there's some pretty big fucking personal stakes in there. There's some pretty big tension. Besides just, they're strong.
No, Vindy, you don't get it. If everyone dies, Goku's like, just shrug his shoulders. I'm content with this. Contentment. It's a big thing in Dragon Ball.
It's just, like, I've never heard someone just say something, I think. They just like, I don't know how people watch that and that doesn't just set off a red flag of like, no, that's not true and that's not how that works. But...
Well, the way the guy is, like, thinking definitely becomes apparent later.
I would actually almost argue the opposite, where I think with an action story where the action is the central focus, the action should get bigger as the tension and narrative escalates. I think the action should also escalate.
Gurren Lagann's bad though, because the action escalates with the tension and the emotions.
Gurren Lagann does a great job of that. Is as their emotions and the tension gets bigger. And then there's something that Gurren Lagann does that I think is a really fun way off of that is it gets bigger until, boom, it just becomes a fist fight at the end, right? Because it's showing that at the end of the day, it's still two ideals, two people fighting. But it's getting bigger as it goes. And I think that is how action stories should work, right? Like, that is, like, how would it make sense that the action gets smaller as the personal stakes get bigger? Like, that makes no sense. That's not how narratives are written.
Yeah, and so another point he brings up is the transformations, which, again, like, I'm not going to say, like, every single phrase of transformation is tied to, like, a character moment or something like that. But as an aspect of, like, characters getting stronger, it is going to be tied to character moments. And
right.
It's true for Goku, you mentioned why earlier, true for Gohan later. It's like...
Yeah, Super Saiyan 1 tied to a character moment. Super Saiyan 2 tied to a character moment. Super Saiyan 3 tied to a character moment. Like, sure, the fact that, like, you could say Goten and Trunks just have Super Saiyan 1. It's like, okay, well, you could say that that's maybe not tied to a character moment. But even then, them going Super Saiyan 3 is tied to a character moment. Like, the series makes it clear what the narrative reason is that these people are
capable of transforming. And
right,
like
there's a reason
means.
For that.
Like, and even the fact that, like, they usually have effects. Like, with, Goku going Super Saiyan 3, like, it limited his time on Earth, which was him putting, like, it literally fed into him putting his trust in Goten and Trunks. Like, with Luffy, with Gear Second, the fact that it chips away his lifespan is, like, how far he's willing to go to protect the people he cares about. Like, it's so blatantly meaningful that, like, hello? God. Like, just dismissing it like, there's just a lot of transformations. Yeah. We know something about how Cell and Boo transform? They absorb power from other people rather than working for it themselves. I thought people loved hard work. Frieza's never trained in a day in his life. He just gets more powerful because he felt like it.
Frieza isn't even getting more powerful. It's the same thing that, like, Goku and, like, Frieza's hiding his true power, right? He's so powerful that he's making himself seem less powerful, and then just, like, unlocking limiters as opposed to a transformation. He's technically, like, in his transformation state already.
Okay,
he's
gotcha. I didn't remember that detail. Okay.
Yeah, like, the entire point is that, like, Frieza is so strong that he just sits in a chair because everyone knows, you don't want to mess with Lord Frieza when he's at his full power.
Yeah, he's so strong he won't even bother using his full power because they're not worth it, Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, like I said, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, it's just like there's a reason for things, and like I was saying, I thought people loved the hard work theme and wouldn't shut up about it, but when it's Dragon Ball, no one cares, so whatever. Oh well.
What do you remember most about Cell's defeat? Do you remember that the world wasn't destroyed, or do you remember Goku's death and that whole father-son Kamehameha thing that Gohan did, and the narrative of Gohan coming into his own as a fighter? I already know the answer, because the Gohan moment is so memorable that it's been remade in the movies and video games over and over and over again. Which is why the idea that stakes need to always be bigger is a fallacy. People don't care about that. They care about the characters. As long as it's personal to the characters and the audience is interested in it, that's all that matters.
So I can't believe I have to explain Gohan going Super Saiyan 2 to someone in the year of our Lord 2020. So Gohan goes Super Saiyan 2 because he respects the life on Earth and has a general love for life. That is something that Android 16 has. That's why Android 16 says the things he does, and the whole time is like, we shouldn't just kill everything, right? We have our mission, we should only kill that. right? Cell has a disrespect for life. He kills Android 16. He's killing indiscriminately. He doesn't care. So the entire point is that, like, if all life on Earth wasn't threatened, Gohan wouldn't have gone Super Saiyan 2, and you wouldn't have gotten that personal moment with the father-son Kamehameha and, you know, Goku sacrificing himself to save everyone. It's more than just, oh, those are personal moments, but the other parts, those aren't personal, because narratives can intertwine both at the same time.
See, and here's what's funny is because he's like, you know, all like what did he say? The bigger stakes, like the Death Destruct's world, or like the size. No, that's what he said. The size of it doesn't matter. But like, then why are you talking about it? If the personal stakes are what matters, then why are you talking about the others? Like the like, yeah, okay, yeah. Once like. But even like I can't even give an example of like a stake that doesn't matter, is because like, yeah, Cell killing everyone that Gohan loves matters. Frieza destroying the planet and, you know, ensuring that Goku dies and he might not be able to come back to life because, you know, there's no Dragon Balls that can bring him back to life because that's already happened. Like, that matters. Like, I can't even think of like what are these some of these irrelevant stakes that he's talking about. That's all I can think of as a scale. But again, like if it doesn't matter, then why are you talking about it?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't get it.
It's ridiculous and kind of insane that, I don't know. I just feel like there's so much just like plain wrong with what he's saying, but
we still have like 4 or 5 other series to discuss.
You can do the whole "we have to save the world" story, but it needs to always be tied to something personal. And if the story continues, there's nothing wrong with shrinking the story down and letting the next threat be something technically less important.
Okay, so I'm going to say this really quickly as the end of the Dragon Ball point, and I have one other point I want to make now before I think we get too far into the video. So, first of all, like I already mentioned, in an action series, you can't have the next threat be smaller than the previous threat, right? Like, if fucking after Frieza, right, say Cell shows up, and the entire time Cell's as strong as fucking Krillin, where's the threat? How does Goku lose? You know? And if Goku can't lose, how are we worried about anyone in his life dying?
Right.
Right? Like, you can't just say, I don't know. I think it's just like a blatant misunderstanding of how narratives have to work.
Yeah, no, it's pretty baffling. Well, we'll get into like why he thinks this. But no, we got fun times ahead.
The other thing I want to say really quickly is, and I think this is why I mentioned that I think this video is worse than the Velocity video. This video is well edited. It looks really nice. And I think that the reason that I would say that makes it worse than the Velocity video is people are more inclined to listen to a video and agree with a video that just looks nice.
Yeah. Or if you have or the voice also matters a lot too.
Mm-hmm. And because this guy has, you know, like a really good
presentation.
Presentation. Yeah, like people are, you know, willing to be like, oh yeah, maybe he's got a good point, and aren't actually like thinking about it. So I think that this video does more harm than something like the Velocity video or something like, you know, Gabe's MHA review, where people aren't, it didn't reach as wide of an audience. You know, they're not as well like put together in like a presentation sense. So videos that look nice and are presented super well that are saying heinously wrong things, people are just gonna buy more. Yeah. Which is why this video has largely positive reception in terms of comments and like to dislike ratio.
Even though there hasn't been, there isn't a single good point in the video.
Right.
One series that knows how to do this is Hunter x Hunter by Yoshihiro Takashi. It has an X in it, but apparently you're not supposed to pronounce the X. I think that's dumb, but that's apparently how it works, so whatever.
I think you're dumb, but apparently that's how YouTube works.
Hunter x Hunter had a huge arc known as the Chimera Ant arc, where the fate of the entire world is at stake. Longtime supporting characters die, actual atomic bombs go off, and it's known that if the main characters fail to stop the villains, then the world may very well be over for humans. Then, when that arc concludes, we get a much smaller scale story about one of the major characters trying to heal his friend in the aftermath of the Chimera Ant arc. And some fans love that arc way more than the previous arc, feeling the Chimera Ant story was just too bloated and not personal enough.
You want to talk about that for a second?
Oh my god, okay. There's nothing more personal in Hunter x Hunter than two things. Okay? And one of them is in both Chimera Ant and Chairman Election, which is Gon and Killua's relationship. And the way that Killua feels indebted to Gon for breaking him out of just being a Zoldyck and giving him that friendship, right? And giving him somewhat of a purpose. Okay? That is a large factor in Chimera Ant. It is the entirety of the first half of Chimera Ant before the plan actually gets set into motion.
And I want to know, where are these people who like the 13th Hunter Chairman Election arc better than Chimera? One of the most beloved arcs in Shonen of all fucking time.
In any story ever. I don't know a single
no, you're right.
person.
It's like up there with like Golden Age or whatever people are flating. I don't know.
It's always Chimera Ant's the
It's a
reason
good
that
ass
Hunter x Hunter
fucking
is good.
arc. Like, I love it. I would honestly like it. Look, you know, I give Hunter x Hunter close to 9 and One Piece a 10, but I'd still rank Chimera arc up there with my top One Piece arcs. Like, it's that fucking good. Like, it honestly, to a point, overshadow. Like, I wouldn't say overshadows because a lot of Hunter x Hunter is good, and you know, but like, it's just like it's a tier above.
It's so good
basically
that
every
it's
other
all
arc.
you hear people talk about.
Right. So where, like, and I love the 13th Hunter Chairman Election more than most people, to the point that it's my third favorite arc in the series after Greed Island and the Chimera Ant arc. That's unusual. Where are these people who like the 13th Hunter Chairman Election more than the Chimera Ant arc?
It sounds like he has one friend who said that, and he's like, yeah. But like, the other thing that I wanted to mention is the other extremely personal, everything with Gon and Picho, and the fact that Gon failed to save Kite, and so now he feels like he has to do whatever he can to bring him back, and he can't, and so that causes him to lose his mind, go insane, and give up his humanity.
Yeah. What?
Which I would call an extremely personal feud.
So generally speaking, a rule that he made up in his head and that he applies to this video is that the more characters that are involved, the less personal the arc is, which just isn't true. So, and that's true for the arcs he just said, the Chimera Ant arc, the Fourth Shinobi World War, Dressrosa. Like, it's a recurring thing. And my issue with that specifically here is that the Chimera Ant arc has like the best side characters in the fucking story. Like,
yeah, like Knuckle,
Moral, Palm, you know, the ants, fucking Meruem,
what's his name?
Komugi,
What's his name? No, Octopus Boy.
Yes, Ikago.
Ikago, yeah, like, he's so good. He's one of the best side characters in the series. Everyone fucking loves Ikago.
Mathwis did a whole video on Chitu because she loves that fucking Catboy dumbass, like, and he's just like a minor antagonist. But Welfin has a great arc. Like, hello. Like, that's one of the reason, like, you know, sure, it's not, you know, like, not even excluding Gon and Killua's like personal struggle that, you know, a lot of the arc is about. Like, what is one of the most, like, he was showing Meruem versus Netero, which is one of the most beloved fights from Hunter x Hunter. It's on everybody's favorite fight or in their favorite fights of all things. And, like,
I would say there's personal stuff going on in that arc with, you know, Netero finally, you know, like the entire moment of him thanking Meruem.
Yeah, the whole fight, like, that is Netero. Like, his whole character is in that fight, basically. Not his whole character, but basically his character. Right, it gives you the context and makes it, even if you weren't super big on Netero before that, here it is. Here's the moment you're going to care about this character, and here's the moment it's going to get personal. Like,
right, as
personal as any, you know, can reasonably get. Like, just because they're not main characters doesn't mean you can't get attached to them. Which is, like, again, a prevailing thread of logic through this video that doesn't make sense.
Right.
But, you know, Hunter x Hunter is kind of a weird deconstructionist take on shonen anime.
Why does everyone say that? Why does everyone who doesn't have a brain call Hunter x Hunter a deconstruction? It's so baffling.
Because Super Angel said it in, like, one of the most popular Hunter x Hunter videos of all time. Everyone was like, you know what? That's true. I don't know if he's the first person to say it, but that's the biggest platform I've seen it said on. So, just to quickly, the deconstruct, it's a meme because no one knows what it means or how to apply it. If you want to actually like do a reasonable, not even just deconstruction of shonen, because shonen is way more broader than just battle shonen, but literally just like basically Shonen Jump's motto, Madoka Box, friendship, effort, victory. Like Madoka Box actually like examines it and breaks it down and comes to a new conclusion. It reconstructs it too. It doesn't just deconstruct it. It creates a new meaning out of it. Yeah, and the point of deconstruction is to remove meaning, but Hunter very clearly has meaning. Like it's not doing things arbitrarily. It's a story. It functions.
People call Hunter x Hunter a deconstruction and say maybe we're the real monsters after all.
People who call Hunter x Hunter just a deconstruction are the real monsters. Anyway.
All right.
It is to shonen anime what Game of Thrones is to fantasy novels. It intentionally plays with the conventions of the genre and audience's expectations, challenging the norms in order to create something new. So let's take a look at some more mainstream stories.
If you are going to call Hunter x Hunter a deconstruction, and you're going to talk about how it deconstructs these tropes and takes things that it does, give evidence. Right? Like, at least give me an example so that I have something to say. Right? Because now all I have to do is give you one trope that Hunter x Hunter has, right? That other shonen have. Hunter x Hunter has a transformation.
Yeah.
Boom. It's not a deconstruction,
But Golan's transformation is different when he fights Pito. It's negative. Like Yusuke in the Three Kings arc, like Ichigo in Arrancar against Ulquiorra.
Or the fact that it's
like
mentioned
Naruto,
that
like
gear
several
3rd and 4th shorten Luffy's lifespan.
Yeah,
that's said.
Yeah, or I was thinking more like the angry rage mode. Actually, bad. Naruto's tailed forms before he actually gets that shit sorted out. Like it's not even that. Like, come on. Also, do Game of Thrones do this shit too? Like, are there people actually going around?
I don't know because I haven't read it. I've never heard anyone call it a deconstruction. Everyone always says that like the fact that the character you're reading as can just fucking die is like a big deal.
Yeah, but it's like I've never heard Game of Thrones called a deconstruction. So
no one ever calls Game of Thrones a fucking deconstruction of a fantasy story. Like that's ridiculous. That's insane.
Why? Because it's dark. Like, what is it even? I can't even think of anything it does with like the tropes or anything. Like, it's just that's his idea of a deconstruction. It's dark.
But I would say that like all things considered, I would say that like. Maybe even like Turn Back the Pendulum is a darker arc than even like Chimera Ant is, right? Like Chimera Ant isn't even that dark in like the realm of shonen arcs. Like I can think of way darker arcs I've read that have me way more like, oh my god, they did that?
Don't tell people that Devilman is shonen; they'll lose their minds.
That's a good fucking point. All right. Uh-oh. The Krasdorf one.
I recently finally experienced the story of One Piece by Eiichiro Oda, and he escalates and de-escalates the stakes constantly, but it's always made personal to the main characters, and that makes almost every story feel like it matters more to the audience. And in this show's case, what I would say is the arc with the most grand scale thus far was also the most personal one for its main character, all about him trying and failing to save his older brother. Something very personal that changes the character's outlook from that point on. It's also easily considered to have many of the best moments of the entire series, according to fans.
So I wanted to pause this really quickly, because I did have one thing I wanted to explain about the way he started about the escalation, de-escalation of One Piece. And I don't know if you'll agree with me on this, but I'm pretty sure you will.
Go ahead.
The reason that One Piece, I hate the way people look at One Piece arcs, because I think it's inherently wrong. The fact that people would call Water 7 and
his lobby different arcs.
And his lobby different arcs. Or even Jaya and Skypiea different arcs. Just because they're on different islands doesn't mean they're different arcs.
I usually go by antagonist, where in that regard, like, Jaya makes sense because it has a different type, but it still thematically ties into Skypiea, so I also understand just calling them the same arc.
I always go by, like,
if
you go to the One Piece wiki, they have sagas, right? So there's, like, the Alabasta saga, and then there's the Skypiea saga.
Yeah,
and
that's fair. Because the Davy Back fight still thematically ties into Water 7 and Punk and his lobby, even though the main,
Right.
even though it's a different main antagonist. So,
And so I would say that like One Piece doesn't de-escalate its tension because it's trying to, keep it fresh. One Piece is doing that because it de-escalates for Jaya to set up for Skypiea, right? It de-escalates for
Davy back fight before
Davy back
going
fight.
into the darkest arc of the time period, or of that
Right.
the manga at that point, rather.
It de-escalates for Amazon Lily and
Goes
Impel
into
Down.
Impel Down, Impel Down's still pretty rough, but but
even then I would say that it's more fun and there's more kind of like fun goofy stuff
Than
to
the
then go
war.
right into
Right.
the war and be fucking batshit insane. Like it does that because it's these are like it stretches the arcs together like it stretches multiple islands together to create one longer arc, right?
Yeah.
And I actually honestly feel like once we have all of Wano, Whole Cake will go right into Wano.
yeah,
And we'll see like Whole Cake to Wano like we see Water 7 and Enies Lobby, right? Like they go right into each other. And what Whole Cake starts, Wano finishes. And that's because that's the way Oda writes his stories, where he uses kind of, you can even look at it as a Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, right? You could say that Luffy getting fucked up at the end of the Davy back fight by Aokiji is like kind of, the end of like kind of a setup for this next part of the story. And then Nico Robin getting taken away is the end of Act 2, and then Act 3 is them going to
that's fair, because because Aokiji is the inciting incident that kickstarts all the government involvement and
Right.
Robin, and that's fair, huh? Yeah,
So like the arcs go past just the one individual island. Like I know people like to say, oh well, One Piece has a great idea of when an arc ends by the islands, but I don't think that's the case.
No,
because
well, I love to bring up the example. Okay, so because it's even like this on the Wikia. So you go Davy back fight, then Water 7, then Rocket Man, then Enia's Lobby, and then post Enia's Lobby back to Water 7. So the Water 7 saga is 5 arcs, right? Because that's the one that trips people up. Is like, okay, Rocket Man, where does Water 7 end and Enia's Lobby begin? When they leave Water 7? When they arrive at Enia's
Right.
Lobby? Because there's a good few chapters between, like, where they're just on the sea trains. Like,
yeah, and there are fights. Like there's Sanji's fight versus
Yeah.
Noodle Boy.
right, it's its own arc. Rocket Man's the one of the weakest arcs of the series, very sadly. But it's also in the best saga, or one of the best sagas. So,
Yeah, it just like I wanted to explain that because he mentions that like, oh, it likes to de-escalate, and in my head the first thing that pops up are like, Jaya and the Davy back fight and things like that, and it's like, okay, those aren't really de-escalations though. Like it's the rising action for a larger story.
and even
arc
in the
that's
New
being
World,
told.
like Zoe is a de-escalation from Dressrosa, but it directly leads into Whole Cake Island.
right, or Punk Hazard is probably a de-escalation from Fishman Island to lead into Dressrosa. Like the
Right.
two were connected.
Yeah, it's just a constant. It's just basic writing, like tonal shifting
Right.
and structure. Like
There's a reason One Piece uses celebrations as the end of an arc, and we haven't had a celebration in a long time.
Yeah.
Because there hasn't been that break in the narrative, like, the escalation of the narrative, so we haven't had a celebration in a minute.
yeah.
Honestly, if someone wanted to say that they used celebrations, like they used the Straw Hat parties as what they consider arcs, I would completely agree with that. I like thinking about it like that works.
Yeah. I mean, the Baroque Works saga does get, because like there's a celebration when they get Chopper to join, but the drum is kind of a detour from the Alabama, like, but it's still tied to Vivian stuff, and
Right.
But so that's like maybe an exception, but as a general rule, yeah. Anyway,
All right, let's listen to him talk about Dressrosa.
here we go.
The second biggest arc, the Dressrosa arc, is nowhere near as popular, as far as I can tell. And in what seems to be a consistent pattern, it also happens to be an arc that's filled with a much larger cast of characters who have personal stakes in the story, but aren't as well known to the audience themselves. It's not a bad story, however. Even with the main characters sidelined a bit, Oda made sure to make it personal enough to keep people invested. Unfortunately, One Piece's contemporaries didn't handle their own stories quite as well.
So, I mean, I don't even, like, I want you to go off here, actually. It's about One Piece.
Yeah, well, so I know you have an issue with Dressrosa, but it might go away when you reread it. Who knows?
Right, and my issue is with the pacing, not even the structure of the arc.
Right.
I think the structure, like, Law's story being kind of this driving force is so good. And that's why I love the moment that, like, Luffy stops Doflamingo from stomping Law's head in.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's
because
the thing. You notice how he's talking about the personal stakes with characters we don't know as well. He never shows Law, who's, I would argue, maybe right now, especially in the story right now, he's the most important non-Straw Hat character in the story. He's been in the story for hundreds of chapters. Like, the only reason, if you look at the story as a whole, like, speculatively, I maybe could put him second because Vivi is in a very important spot, but, like, that's only speculative. Like, Law is also super popular. During Dressrosa, he was second place. He was the second most voted character. He would have beaten Luffy if Luffy's votes weren't combined with Lucy, the gladiator that he was disguised as. Like, so you're talking about a popular character that people love. It's wild. Yeah.
I love that. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, it's interesting. So Law's a very important character who had very deep personal stakes in Dressrosa. That he got I think one of the longest flashbacks in the series at the time, if not the longest. Until
a flashback that I would probably say that nowadays I think the Odin flashback is better. But until the Odin flashback, that flashback was like everyone said. Even if they don't like Dressrosa, the Corazon flashback is the best part of Dressrosa
because it gives context into the character who's like the most important in Dressrosa. And Doflamingo, the main antagonist. He also didn't show Rebecca, who's also super important, who has these personal stakes in the arc, who's like, part of the deliberate, reflections back to Alabasta. Like, the story is a microcosm of, or is expected to be a microcosm of like what's gonna happen later. Doflamingo's like a former celestial heavenly dragon for a reason. He, there's the cleansing mentioned in the Reverie. Doflamingo tries to kill everyone. He tries to cleanse everyone. And Luffy stops him. So it's like, and so ultimately he like places the blame on these other characters who no one cares. Bartolomeo, people fucking love Bartolomeo.
Dude, he's still one of my favorite characters this series. Like,
yeah,
I even mentioned him constantly when we did the Stampede video, and I was talking like all the time of like, yeah, I loved Stampede because I got to see my sweet man again, who I hadn't seen since Dressrosa, and I love him.
Yeah, and Cavendish is fun. I'm not gonna say I love like Hojurin or Blue Gilly or I'm not gonna say I love everyone, but like they're also like we know why they're important. Like, because I remember people bitching like, oh, these characters aren't gonna matter. Well, they're part of Luffy's fleet now.
Yeah,
they
like
matter
the Straw Hat
now.
Fleet in and of itself is a personal thing that like, yeah, yeah.
So it's just it's a dumb point. And like going back to, and I also don't understand. I thought Dressrosa was pretty well liked. Like, generally speaking, like,
yeah, I think like the only Dressrosa hate I see is really Best Guy Ever and his whole "it's dumb that Luffy broke the strings" bullshit. And like that crowd, right? Like the Best Guy Ever.
Oh, Doflamingo is the most like, he has the most like male favorites for One Piece antagonists, or at least or at least as of a couple. Because I remember when I did the rant cafe with Nux Taku on shonen villains, Doflamingo was there because the guy who made the poll just chose the antagonist with the most faves. So this was like before Katakuri, so maybe Katakuri has more now, but like, right. Doflamingo's still a really popular antagonist, so I'd expect people really like the arc.
He was one of the only One Piece characters I knew of before I read the series because everyone talked about Doflamingo all the time, And
he's a real, like, I would say, like, I think I like Katakuri better as an antagonist, but Doflamingo's a great villain. Like,
yeah, and I just had like this really interesting thought about One Piece that he didn't kind of mention, which is I would say a large part of One Piece is the fact that Luffy is inserting himself into these conflicts that he doesn't really belong in.
Yeah, no, because I forgot. You're right. I didn't forget to mention it later because like at the end of the day, like Luffy isn't really the one being like oppressed and made to suffer because of the world government. Like, yeah, he's lost Ace and we believe it to be Sabo to the government.
Right.
That's kind of it. Other than that, he's mostly observing all this horrible suffering and stepping in the way of that and going, "This is wrong. I'm gonna beat the shit out of you," because he's Luffy,
right.
So it's like at the end of the day, like the most important part to the setting and the world of One Piece that a lot of people love is something Luffy's not really tied to or even interested into. Robin's the one who's like, "Oh, hey, Void Sentry, that's kind of neat." Luffy doesn't care. intrinsically. Right. But at the end of the day, who's gonna be the one whose like actions are key to toppling this corrupt world government? Luffy.
And what I think is interesting, like the only personal stake Luffy has in the narrative of the story is that he wants to be free, right? It's not about his, he's not, you could say in Dragon Ball, Goku has more personal stakes in every fight he has than Luffy has in almost any, outside of obviously, Marineford and a couple others. I think that generally you could say Goku has more personal stakes in a lot of those arcs than Luffy does, because a large part of the series is Luffy kind of inserting himself into these conflicts, and winning people over through just being himself.
Right, because again, that's a big conflict he has with the government, is freedom versus tyranny, and but it's not a personal conflict because he's generally not suffering for he's not a former slave or something like that. That would make it way more personal, but that's not there. And
that's by design,
exactly,
because Luffy's a pirate. It's goes back to the Fisherman Island moment where he says, "I don't want to be a hero because a hero has to share the meat. I just want all the meat for myself." By design, Luffy doesn't have this personal stake in this story. He just wants to be himself, and when he's told he can't be himself, that's when he fights.
So it is really funny that overall he talks very positive about One Piece, but he also kind of doesn't get it in a way that goes against his point. So very sad, because the way he very much reads into things is it's the kind of well, I'm feeling this way, therefore this must be a problem, and my reasoning for why I'm feeling this way must be correct, so I'm going to argue my feelings as if they are fact. It's
very much like, I like Hunter x Hunter, I like One Piece.
They
Why
must
do
be
I like
doing
these?
something right. Oh, I don't like. I have issues with Naruto and Bleach. They must be doing something wrong. Speaking of Naruto and Bleach.
All right.
Naruto did its best to keep the stakes personal at the heart of it, and managed to do so adequately, even up to the very end in many cases. The first major arc was small by nature and was more about Team 7's personal growth as ninja than anything else. The Chunin exams arc grew in scale, but was filled with smaller, more personal stories about each of the kids that kept it consistently interesting as it went along. But the most memorable part of this entire arc was the moment Rock Lee fights Gaara, because you understand Rock Lee's personal struggles, and you're rooting for him to do well. Based on this one moment, Rock Lee is an extremely popular character in Naruto, and all he had was that, basically. He didn't really do anything else for the entire series, but he still remained very popular based on the strength of one moment that people were personally invested in.
So, I want to talk about this for a second, because I've been rereading Naruto, and it's been interesting rereading it because a lot of my views on things have changed from when I first read it. One thing that hasn't changed is that I still think Rock Lee Gaara is a fun fight, but is probably one of the weakest fights in the Chunin exams.
Or at least in the major ones, because there are a lot of other fights in that exact tournament that
true.
don't matter.
I would say it's probably better than Naruto Kiba, right? Or, even I would say it's probably, I like it more than Ino Sakura. Mm-hmm. But I would not say for a second it's better than Naruto Neji. Or, I don't know if people consider this a part of the Chunin exams. I guess you kind of have to.
It should be.
Naruto Gaara is far and away the best fight in Part 1 of Naruto. The most memorable moment of Part 1 in Naruto. The most personal moment of Part 1 of Naruto. And, there's no way I think you can look at this and say that, oh yeah, with everything that I'm talking about, Naruto Gaara should be the best fight in Part 1 of Naruto.
Yeah, no, it's it's a meme. It's the Gaara, and I can't believe Naruto betrayed its theme of hard work beats talent by having Rock Lee lose to the talented Gaara, because that's what happened, and everyone seems to conveniently forget that. What I wanted to point out also is that, because he mentions how Rock Lee is really popular in the West, kind of, because
true.
I looked up the popularity polls. He
shit on.
He peaks at fifth in even the American Shonen Jump did a poll too. He was tied at fifth with Sakura. So
no, Sasuke's more popular. Naruto's more popular.
No, here's four characters.
Kakashi's more popular.
No, here's four characters Rock Lee never beat in any of the Japanese character polls.
God, I hope Gaara's one of them.
Naruto, Sasuke, Kakashi, and Iruka. I'm not even kidding. Iruka is absurdly popular in Japan for some reason, even though he has very little overall screen time.
Well, no, I mean, I get that,
yeah.
right? Like, I love Iruka, but
Japan is never, like, in the one poll that it ranked 5th, those were the 4 characters who were above Rock Lee. So...
And I mean, it's telling that he quickly drops off in the character popularity polls, right? And it's not because he's not in the story. Because there are characters who pop the fuck off in popularity polls all the time. Like Iruka, who are not in the story that much.
Datara is still in a high rank in, like, the last poll. After being dead for, like, 200 chapters.
No, it was more than, like, 200 chapters. It was, like,
the last poll was, like, in the 500s, so...
Oh, okay.
I don't remember exactly
it was,
when
like,
it
200
died.
chapters.
But it was, like, 1 to 200 chapters, for sure.
Yeah, like, if you know anything about character popularity polls, people will place highly that haven't shown up in forever, right?
Yeah.
Hitsugaya was in the top in Bleach's character popularity polls before he even did anything. All we had just seen him, and he was, like, number 4.
Oh, no, a character who really had that was, I can't remember his name. He's got the Shuhei, the black hair with the 69 tattoo. Like, he never did anything in the entire manga, and he was still really high in the polls. Like, Kubo actually avoided doing things with him, or maybe he didn't avoid things, but he did say in somewhere that he didn't like how he was really popular before he actually did anything and before the audience got to know him. So maybe that made him aversive towards doing things with him, but yeah. So characters will just get popular for whatever reason. So, but yeah, like,
so
again,
the fact that Rock Lee drops off after that fight and isn't still that high shows that he's not that insanely popular in Japan.
Right, because maybe Japan has a better, grasp of Naruto as a whole, and they didn't just, like, watch it when they were children and go, like, wow, this Rock Lee Gar fight got my dick a little hard. Instead of challenging my sexual feelings, I'm going to, just say this is the best fight and leave it at that.
And here's what I will say on top of that, I think, to just add a little bit more weight to your point. I think it, like, I understand the point that, like, oh, well, my Western perspective should matter too outside of just the Japanese perspective. But Naruto as a series is so drenched in Japanese mythology and folk stories and such and stuff like that, like, I think about this all the time in Naruto. It is so hard for us as Westerners to have, like, a good understanding of everything going on because we didn't grow up with these, like, stories that Naruto is built on.
Oh yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Like,
or
the mythology
not even just
that built Naruto.
Yeah. Well, even, like, One Piece with Wano is referencing folk stories and stuff that to us are completely foreign. Or Bleach with, like, the Buddhism would be way more recognizable if you grew up in a culture that is already surrounded with a lot of Buddhism, So it's like, these aspects are kind of cut off to us in that sense, and they become more foreign and they need to be explained better, but go on.
And so that's why, like, and I'm not going to say that, we should always, only look at the Japanese perspective and that they're always right. Because they are kind of fucking stupid sometimes. But, I remember seeing this the other day. Like, Dragon Ball is considered, like, a classic manga in Japan. And it's like, it's seen almost like how I've seen, like, it described as, like, Berserk is here. Where, like, everyone's read it, everyone loves it, everyone talks about it, and treats it as, like, a literal classic of the genre, right? Or of the medium.
Like in the West, it's like this flawed, inspiration piece that, got a lot of people into anime and inspired all these other series. But that's not how it's viewed in Japan. It's viewed as, like, this timeless classic. Like,
right. Something that everyone should read and everyone cares about. And that's why it's continuing in Japan. That's why it's continuing today with stuff like Super. Isn't just because it's this flawed piece that people like, but because it's literally seen as a classic work that people care about because it's good and has good things going for it.
Right.
And I think that's, again, like, that's something that I think we see consistently is that in these EWBs is that a lot of people like to only look at the Western perspective.
Yeah.
And then I think for Naruto especially, yeah.
Well, I was going to say even the way, because, like, especially earlier when he talks about how Toriyama maybe was bowing to pressure or something. Like, he's talking about the Japanese side of things, but not, like, who would have been, like, okay, he brought up the editors. Okay, yeah, one of his editors, I forget exactly which one, was deathly afraid of Toriyama doing a time skip and aging up Goku because he thought everyone would hate it.
Right.
So it's like, but that was the Japanese audience. Like, the Western audience obviously never had that perspective. Kid Goku is, like, when you play the games, it's Kid Goku and Goku. Like, the one that the editor was terrified would alienate all viewers by changing is the normal one because that's the Western perspective. Like, you can't just talk about the authors and bring them up without recognizing that, like, they don't fucking care about the West, generally speaking.
Right.
Like, the only time I can really hear, not them, recognizing that the series is popular, and Oda makes, like, wider text bubbles to account for, like, languages that read left to right, so he has longer bubbles that have squished text. Like, that's the only time I've heard of them actually, like, noticing, and greenlighting Western stuff, like the One Piece Hollywood stuff. Generally, but it's not at the level of, like,
yeah.
Or what were you going to say?
I would say the only other instance is actually has to do with Oda is the fact that he said that even though Naruto never passed One Piece in popularity, he always considered Kishimoto a rival because Naruto was more popular in the West.
Internationally, right, than One Piece was.
Yeah, internationally
Yes.
than One Piece was. And so he was always jealous of that. And so that even though in Japan, Naruto never really passed One Piece in the Shonen Jump polls and stuff, he felt like Kishimoto's a rival of his because Kishimoto captured success where Oda didn't. And what I always feel bad about is that, like, the reason Kishimoto captured success and Oda didn't is completely because of 4Kids and has nothing to do with Oda.
Yeah, well, one, 4Kids, and I'd say another reason is because Naruto is so Japanese that it leans into the foreignness of anime that makes anime appealing,
Right, that makes sense too,
which, because where One Piece is more a Japanese take on more Western things,
Right.
It's more cartoony, and the 4Kids stuff definitely hurt it a lot, but I do think on some level at least to especially a kid, like One Piece Naruto just seems more mature because there's blood and it's serious, I don't know.
Right.
Relatively
well, there's
speaking.
one other person that we'll get to later who definitely cares about a Western perspective, but they show up later in the video and we'll talk about them when we get to them.
Mm-hmm. All right, but let's move on.
Oh my fucking god! I know exactly. It was 6:18.
Yeah.
God, I'm fucking
Ham
gonna kill
hands
myself.
Vindy and his ham hands.
Why are you calling me fat? That's fucking
No, I meant
rude.
just mean like.
No,
like
no,
club,
you
yeah.
call me fat.
No,
You can't do it.
okay, you know what? Fine.
The series continues on from there, making sure every story is personally important to its main cast, and therefore the audience along the way. However, the scale kept getting bigger, and the cast kept growing, and eventually we ended up with a giant ninja war in order to save the world that has many very good moments, but is filled with so many side stories and extraneous characters that it begins to all run together, and the stakes get lost in the middle of all this, and eventually it just becomes much harder to stay invested. I read Naruto all the way to the end, but it was purely out of wanting to see the story of the characters I grew up with conclude, and it ended up kind of being a chore.
So, the first thing I want to say is, the entire narrative tension in the 4th grade ninja war, to begin with, is the fact that it's a ninja war. Because it's literally stated from, like, chapter 3 that, like, if a war were to happen, it would be catastrophic, and that people want to avoid war at all costs because war is terrible, right?
Right.
Like, that is a stance taken from the very beginning. So the fact that we get to a point where we start the entire series, and everyone sounds like, oh, in the Chunin exams, which you want to fucking jerk off, and even in the fucking Zabuza arc, which you want to jerk off, it's mentioned, hey, we do a lot of what we do to avoid war with other ninja nations because having war is catastrophic for the lives of all of us. And it's something that we want to avoid at any cost. So they're trying not to have this war. So the fact that, like, a war ends up breaking out is already a big enough thing in and of itself.
No, like, the fact that the series ends in a war is so like, the fact that the tail beasts, like, how they're sort of managed by the villages is compared to the Cold War. But, like, Kishimoto deliberately did that. He, as, like, a nuclear thing where there's these things to... They're supposed to keep the war from happening, but that's not how it turns out. In fact, they cause more conflict between the villages, and they give the Akatsuki reason to start shit. War is... The series ending in this big war is just such a perfect way to wrap everything up that just, like, saying, oh, it's escalation, that's the only reason for it. And then, like, the thing, just more characters bad. Like, the way he says, like, oh, because there's more characters, people must lose interest. You lost interest. The maker of this video, the Shonen Problems video, lost interest. But he's applying that to as if it's, like, a fact. Like, this is just, like... You also got older, your tastes would have changed, you never went back and fucking, like, maybe you did, but, like, it doesn't sound, I don't know. Maybe wasn't viewing it critically enough, I don't know, but it's like...
What? Yeah. I mean, it's hard to break away, first of all, from your nostalgia
That's
and other
true,
parts
yeah.
of things. I still, when I was reading Naruto now for my second time, reading the Chunin exams, because I'm at the age where I knew you grew up with fucking... cave painting. But
that's not what
I remember
watching.
I remember watching Naruto on Cartoon Network and then going to school and talking to friends about it, right? And like at the end of Naruto Sasuke, like Naruto v Sasuke at the end of part 1, we were losing our shit. I remember going to a friend's house who had it on fucking DVR to make sure I saw the fucking episodes. Right?
Right, so it was a big part of your childhood, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and so it is still hard for me to separate my feelings as a kid watching Naruto and me being like, oh my god, Naruto's such a fucking Giga Chad with like
the fact that part 2 is just better.
Right, yeah, and the fact that like who I am now and the fact that I'm, you know, more analytical with how I view media now, I still struggle with that. So, you know, I don't blame anyone for having trouble with that, because he even mentions he grew up with the story, right? And that is something that's really hard to deal with. But I think that, you know, if we want to look at the Fourth Great Ninja War and just mention a couple first of all, the entire setup of the Fourth Great Ninja War is meant to bring personal conflict, right? The fact that people who are killed are brought back. Zabuza's brought back, right? Gaara talks to his dad. Naruto has another meeting with the fucking fourth Hokage. Naruto and Kurama is, I would still say, one of the, and I haven't gotten there yet in my reread, but even from reading it originally, is one of the best moments in that series and one of the most personal moments because it's Naruto literally confronting his inner demon.
Yeah. And yeah, there's one-off fights, but they still are like contextualize the character, like Darui and Hanzo versus I can't remember the samurai. Yeah, like a fight between, like, you know, because they're going into the generational thing and the passing of the torch. Like, the fights have a purpose, you know. So even if you don't care about the character, like, oh no, I didn't like this one fight, I'll move on, boo-hoo, you know. Like, most of the stuff is still focused on Naruto and Sasuke by far. Yeah, it's a little annoying.
It definitely is. Yeah, it's definitely annoying. But now as you're talking about Bleach, I have a feeling we're both getting really upset. So,
go ahead.
So I want to pause this really quickly because this is the second time he's done this.
Yeah.
And I hope you caught it because it definitely really got me that time. The first time I was like, okay, because I understand he was talking about phonetics. This is the second time he's made fun of the Japanese pronunciation of someone's names.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to call the man a racist, right? I'm not going to say this video is racist. You didn't hear me say that. But also, like, 2 times in an 8-minute video to make fun of a person's name pronunciation who is a different language and has a different phonetic alphabet than you is a little scum. Well, see,
I'm kind of not a fan of that. This one it's pronounced that way because it's like tight, a dated word for cool, you know. So like this one's an unusual one, but it's just like, I don't know, like, yeah, this one's less about the you know, because it's being pronounced in a Western way, which is why it's unusual. But I don't know. It's also like, I don't know how this thing was pronounced. That's weird. And yes, like, especially with Hunter 1 where he's associating with Japan or like.
Yeah, I'm really, really, really not a fan of making fun of Japanese pronunciation for things. If you want to pronounce it in a Western way in your video, people will make fun of you. But I'm more okay with that than pronouncing it correctly and then being like, man, the way those darn Japanese people pronounce something.
Have you seen the
really
Play of Grimes video?
Else.
Have you seen the
I have not. And I don't.
Oh, no.
I've already said I'm watching it on stream with people when I finish my Naruto reread. So be ready.
You have to let me know because I want to be there because. Vindy, imagine like that joke, but like unironically, 1,000,000 times worse. And that's not a figure I pull out like randomly. It's bad,
like, I would say
Vindy.
that like at a certain level, that joke is just racist, right?
No.
Like,
well, that's not even the only racist thing about the video, but anyway.
Oh no.
Look, I don't call it the worst video I've seen on YouTube lightly. Anyway, we're not talking about Naruto, we're talking about Bleach.
Okay. What was the thing you said that you noticed that wasn't the
I thought it was just the stakes thing and the personal stakes. Or no, the arc, it was the de-escalation because it's just arc structure. Like, yeah, it de-escalates going into Arrancar. It's just how it works, you know? Like, Fullbring was another one because it is a lower state, like, because that's sort of like the 13th 100 chairman election, in a sense, where it's just like a lower arc than compared to Arrancar and Thousand Year Blood War, where like literally like the Soul King and the structure of the macroverse as a whole, is where the Fullbring is just like these guys and the like Ichigo's life basically and livelihood, but so
yeah, what. And I was gonna say, and we've talked about this on our streams before, of like, there's a difference between like when you talk about it like an act structure in something long like that. There's the act structure of individual arcs. There's the act structure of a story as a whole. So the end of the Arrancar arc is the end of Act 2 for Bleach as a whole.
Exactly. Yeah.
But Fullbring arc and Thousand Year Blood War have their own 3-act structure. So as part of that 3-act structure of its own thing, you have to de-escalate to re-escalate, right?
Yes.
The 4th grade ninja word is the same thing. There's a reason it doesn't start with the Madara fight.
It starts with the QB taming, which has me and Matthews were noticing this when we were reading it. Some of the most comedy in the series, right after the pain and the fifth the ninja summit, and right before the war. Like it's a de-escalation. Like it's just how you write stories. Long one, and it just really shows up in these long ones because they spend more time on that low point, the low tone, the Davy back fight, the full Fullbring, so stuff like that.
Right. It's not de-escalation for de-escalation's sake. It's de-escalation because it's actual writers telling a story who understand how stories are meant to be told and what a 3-act structure is.
Right, and how you can't have things go full blast, forever.
Right.
But
Thing is, he handled this wonderfully in his first major arc, the let's just call it the Save Rukia arc.
Okay.
Did you just call the Soul
This was the
Society
part
arc?
that made me lose my mind. Not like hearing the same old shit 5 million times, but him calling Soul Society arc the one that everyone called before they even knew the internet existed and were just literally watching Bleach on TV. Yeah, the Soul Society arc. Like, Bleach got worse out of after Soul Society arc. That one.
Like, if you're gonna watch Super Eye Patch Wolf and call Hunter x Hunter a deconstruction, you've heard that man say that Soul Society is the best part of Bleach, right? You've heard him call it the Soul Society arc. I don't know where that comes from, but that's terrible.
Bleach video is like his second most popular one still. Like,
was it out by the time this video came out? I actually want to look.
I wouldn't be surprised. I would assume so. I forget how long it's been.
June 28th, 2017. Super Eye Patch Wolf's Bleach video came out. How does this man make so much goddamn content?
I know he's done a lot of work.
Bleach was August 20th, 2016. So the Bleach video was out by this point.
Yeah, gotcha. How do you just even talk about Bleach with like friends and Soul Society arc never just comes up? Like, I don't know what it's called.
Talking to people who are not part of the major discussion as a whole, considering he said that the chairman election arc people liked more than Chimera Ant. Like, he's always talking to like 3 friends.
How do you not know what to call? Like, he just called it Dressrosa. He didn't call it the Beat Doflamingo arc. the Save Rebecca and Law arc.
He didn't call it the
Destroy the Smile Factory arc.
The Beat Madaru Chia arc.
Well, no. It's Beat Obito, Beat Madara Chia, Beat Kaguya, and then Beat Sasuke. It's like 4 arcs, Vindy. Come on. But no, it's
not the Beat Meruem arc.
But no,
like, that's insane.
That's why like I said, I lost it because I'm like, how do you not just call it the Soul Society arc? What everyone calls it. Like, I just don't. It's a dumb thing to get hung up on, but also like, how is this man real?
Yeah.
Like, this should have just like, you're not allowed. Just take the video out of your hands. You're not allowed to talk about Bleach anymore because you don't know what the Soul Society arc is.
No, it's not even you don't know what the Soul Society arc is. You don't know what the Soul Society arc is called. Like, I know people who know, like, when I was going to read Bleach, I knew nothing about it the first time. And I knew it was called the fucking Soul Society. Like, I heard of the Soul Society before.
I knew a few things. One of them was Soul Society. One of them was some things Aizen does in Soul Society. Like, it's just like it's a super memorable arc to people, but at least they remember its name when thinking about it.
Jesus Christ.
Oh god.
It was all about a group of teenagers trying to save their friend from being executed. That was always at the heart of the story, as well as the personal growth of all these teens that you've come to know and love. After that, however, Kubo played lip service to the need for personal stakes without really seeming to understand what made his first big story work so well. In his next big arc, all he did was basically create the exact same situation, except with a lot more distractions from the personal goal, and introducing way more characters, and in doing so making it harder for the audience to care about what's happening. The story lost focus, and the majority of Bleach's audience lost interest, leading it to be prematurely canceled.
Here's the first thing I'm going to say. I legitimately would say that Turn Back the Pendulum is one of the best flashbacks I've ever seen, and does a phenomenal job at making you care about characters that you've already met and understand why their personal stake in the narrative is important and why they care, and it makes you as the reader care. Right?
No, yeah.
I think...
Like, at the end of the Turn Back the Pendulum, when you see all the Vizards, like, ready to gear up, it's like, it's a hype moment, because you're like, yeah, we're going into Fake Karakura Town. Let's fucking go. Like, Arrancar is the best arc in Bleach, okay? Let's just...
I don't think there's any doubt.
Like, it's also the longest arc in Bleach, but, like, and he says that it lost popularity, which is not true. Arrancar arc is where it was selling the most, at least as far as back as Oricon goes, where, like, the highest selling volume is volume 40, which was right before the Ulquiorra fight, which is fucking amazing. And how are you gonna say there's no personal stakes when, like, the whole, like, Ichigo... It's the same thing as before. So it wasn't personal before?
Oh no, last time a friend was gonna die. This time it's a different friend. Oh wait, it's the friend he cares more about.
The person who, like, in the Ulquiorra fight, he loses his mind and becomes a fucking hollow out of his desperation to protect her, to the point that he literally nearly kills Uryu. Like, how is that not personal?
And, like, part of what the fucking entire arc is about is showing the way that literally every... Because, like, here's the thing about a lot of Soul Society, if you want to talk about personal stake in the narrative. A lot of the fucking captains during Soul Society don't actually want to fight Ichigo and his friends. There's a reason that they all become his friends, and it's believable that they all become his friends at the end. Because they're fighting him out of duty, not out of want to fight him.
Right.
In the Soul Society, or in Arrancar arc, every single person fighting is fighting out of a want to fight and a feel like this feeling that they need to fight.
Both
for
want
themselves.
and duty. Like, yeah, they're also
Right.
No, actually, specifically the ones who go to Hekomundo are breaking orders. Like, they're not supposed.
Right.
When Byakuya and Kenpachi and Kurosuji come in to save the day, they're not supposed to be there. They're supposed to be in Fake Karakura Town.
Rukia,
well, of course,
and
that happened first. Of course, yeah. So,
yeah, like, none of them are supposed to be there. But it's one of those things where, like, that's part of what I love about that arc is that, like, the people in charge of them are like, I understand that your personal feeling, like, they literally explain that, like, your personal feelings of what's going on are so strong that we cannot tell you not to do this, so you're free to do what you want. Like, these characters are literally shirking their responsibilities because their personal stake in the fucking narrative is so high. And you sit here and go like, oh, there's no personal stake in a rock card. That's why people lost interest. Are you kidding me?
And yeah, so it's just factually incorrect. Like, so yeah, people, like, sales did decrease. The last volume still sold, like, you know, a fair amount in its first few weeks. Like, well, I was about to compare it to recent sales, but then I realized coronavirus is killing sales, so it wasn't a good comparison. I didn't check till, like, last year. But, like, it's the manga is still one of the best selling in Jump. So even if there was a drop off in, you know, manga volume sales, at least, like, it was still generally, like, enjoyed as a series. And Thousand Year Blood, like, excluding Fullbring, which takes place in Ichigo's hometown and involves all of his friends, and that he still, like, he wants to connect to, even though he doesn't have these powers, and he still wants to, like, fight with. And Thousand Year Blood War goes back to his family, his mom, who the grief of a big theme in Bleach, along with courage to face your fears, like the fear of loss, the fear of not being able to protect someone. Like, the core of Ichigo's character that goes back to his formative thing with his mom, that somehow doesn't come up in this video, like, comes back in Thousand Year Blood War with the patriarch of the Quincy's, who his mom was, who resulted in the death of his mom because he took her powers before she fought the Grand Fisher normally, and it was his fault. And Ichigo's like, wow, that pissed me off a little bit. I think I gotta go fucking kill God. And it's a big personal thing. Never mind, like, yeah, the Soul Reapers, who you're supposed to feel personally towards by this point of the story because you've seen so much of them. Because Kubo loves his side characters. He won't let them go. And that's why there's a lot of fights in the manga. Folk giving like good fights in the manga, giving context and making you attack for if you don't like maybe you don't like Yuma Chiga, you might not like Hisugaya. There's a shitload of them. You gotta like one of them. Come on.
Yeah, well, I think on top of that, right, like at a certain point, let's talk about what Bleach is doing and why it ended when it did, because it was clearly not canceled. It clearly is supposed to end after 1,000.
Oh yeah, no, that's just factually
incorrect. So
incorrect.
if you want to talk about Bleach as this thing of like unity, right, and like the Buddhism aspect of being like combining all these parts, right? Soul Society is Ichigo fighting Soul Reapers and kind of learning about the Soul Reaper side of him. Arrancar is Ichigo fighting Hollows and learning about the Hollow side of him. And 1,000 Year Blood War is Ichigo fighting Quincy's and dealing with the Quincy side of him.
And even before that, Fullbring is him fighting humans and like recontextualizing the human part of him that has like changed from the story up to that point, which is why it takes place in Karakura Town, because Karakura Town is symbolically like a comfort zone for him. He leaves that comfort zone when other people protect him, like in Soul Society when Rukia protected him, in Arrancar when Orihime protected him, in 1,000 Year Blood War when Ishida protected him, when all of them went to the antagonist side to protect him, and he, a character who has to protect everyone, doesn't like that. He doesn't like being protected because he's a stupid kid. Like so he leaves his comfort zone. Then when he loses his powers, he's stuck in his comfort zone. But it's all alien to him now. Ichigo. But what was that? Or go on.
I was like, Chad joined the Fullbringers to protect
that's true.
Ichigo.
Right,
as well.
right. And everyone wants to help him, but they also won't communicate with each other. Like, the whole big twist of the arc is that, like, Ganjo or Ginjo was like, yeah, if Ichigo and Ishida trust each other so that Ishida tells him that I was the one who stabbed him and not Tsukishima, then I lose my game. That didn't happen because they didn't trust each other. Like, so there's personal reasons going into like why the arc is even happening. Like, so I don't think this guy read Fullbring. He just like heard that because there's no evidence of it. I think he just like heard that it was canceled and he dropped it around Arrancar because he didn't care. And then he's like, now he's stating all of this as an objective fact. It didn't get canceled. Kubo had health issues. He was literally like Kishimoto got, like Togashi is constantly in, like. And so he ended the series a little sooner than he'd have liked. So,
but even then, like, the series has everything there. Like, sure, you could say that the art in the last 3 volumes especially has some moments where it's a little rough. And, it kind of speeds through, the Uabach fight. But at the same time, 1,000 Year Blood War is clearly the final arc of Bleach. And when he started it, he was fine and able to continue for a while. There's a reason that arc's fucking 20 volumes long.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yes, there were health issues that caused it to end maybe a little bit earlier than Kishimoto wanted.
Or Kubo.
Or Kubo, sorry, not Kishimoto. That, would have caused it to end earlier than Kubo wanted. But at the same time, I think it's very clear that, like, he told the full brunt of the story he wanted to. Did Chad really get his moment in 1,000 Year Blood War? No. Would he have? In my opinion, if maybe. Kubo didn't have health issues, I would say almost 100%, right? Like, I definitely think that, at a certain
he had
point,
a moment, but it wasn't that big, yeah.
Right. Like, he had to make concessions because of what kind the circumstances he was in. So, I don't know. Like, I don't like...
And I don't think it ruined... Like, the fact that, there's some things missing in the end, not even, like, the last arc, literally just, like, the last, like, few volumes. It doesn't ruin Bleach for me at all. Like, it's still an amazing story.
No, definitely not.
And it certainly isn't one without personal stakes.
It's definitely fucking awful, and I really am not. I just hate that entire point. But I guess we can
Finish the video. We're almost done.
However, I believe things are improving. If Dragon Ball was the first wave of shonen, I'd consider Naruto and One Piece and Bleach to be the second wave of shonen. Hunter is kind of its own thing. It's too singular and weird to be included in these trends, but I believe that means the third wave of shonen is going to be led by shows like...
Oh my god.
Do you recognize that music? Guess who's here to save shonen?
Yeah, I fucking recognize the music, okay? I've seen an episode of MHA. I've heard you say run play 25 fucking times, okay?
No, I wanted to bitch
I
about
also
the
want
first
to point
wave,
out,
second
I
shit.
think it
shit.
was,
Yeah, go on.
I think it was really funny the way he used his editing. I don't know if this was intentional, but it definitely was there. That in every other manga he talked about except for Bleach, he used a vocalist song, and then he used a vocal song for Bleach, the one he was the most openly negative towards, which, like, vocal songs are, like, the most, like, bad, I think.
To use
like,
in a
I
video?
hate vocal songs in videos while you're
Yeah,
talking, or even if you're not talking.
Oh.
And the fact that he used a vocal song over Bleach and a non-vocal song over everything else, even though he used a One Piece fucking opening.
No, yeah,
now, I'm not going
yeah.
to say that was intentional, but he definitely didn't fix the Bleach part because he definitely didn't give a fuck.
That's true. And I guess we already talked about it a bit, like with Dragon Ball and Yu Hakusho. It's the first wave of shonen. Shonen was invented here. Nothing else came first. Like, yeah, if you're gonna divide it into eras, like, yeah, there's the Golden Trio: Dragon Ball, Saint Seiya, and wait, hold on. Saint Seiya was a little further. Yu Hakusho, Slam Dunk, and Dragon Ball.
I think I'm not.
There's it's the Golden
Yeah.
Trio, which was around the 90s, and it definitely included Yu Hakusho and Slam Dunk. I'm just forgetting. I think it was Dragon Ball. It might have been Saint Seiya, because Saint Seiya was also pretty big. But maybe it was considered a little more. And then, yeah, you got the big three. You got Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach. Like, you can see those eras, but, like, JoJo is just from the same era as Dragon Ball and Saint Seiya, and it was a direct influence to Yu Hakusho.
Yeah.
Like,
and JoJo has evolved, and different parts, I would say, fit in different eras.
Yeah.
Right?
right.
And still keep a little bit of the Araki style, but, Part 7 and Part 1, yeah, they feel like they were written by the same person. They also feel like completely different fucking manga to read entirely.
Yeah, and in case someone doesn't know what I'm talking about, in the Black Chapter Black arc of Yu Yu Hakusho, there's the zones or regions or whatever, territories, that's what they're called, where they have these superpowers. And Togashi basically said, yeah, it was inspired by that manga. That manga was JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 3 Stardust Crusaders, where stands were introduced. So, you can't just put question mark when, like, it has a very clear spot in these, because it's too different, it's too weird. Just do the basic bit of research. And Hunter x Hunter, I'd put right alongside the big three, in, like, not just, like, because they're not even, like, that dissimilar in certain ways they approach the tropes and how they
and
like,
One Piece is still going and Hunter x Hunter is still going. So what makes Hunter x Hunter different from the big three in terms of eras? If One Piece is allowed to continue and Hunter x Hunter is, like, still going, I would definitely say those are similar. Hunter x Hunter hasn't, like, I would say One Piece and Hunter x Hunter, not that they haven't changed over the course of their run, but, there is a difference between, the newer shonen and something like Hunter x Hunter and One Piece and Naruto and Bleach. And if you want to point that out, that's fine. But I think that at the same time, Hunter x Hunter still very clearly falls in line with the big three in terms of eras.
yes.
And I think the fact that he only ever the only mangas that he shows, or the only manga, I guess, that he shows that he doesn't have in the video are Yu Yu Hakusho and
JoJo, yeah.
JoJo's. And, like, I understand his entire point of, like, he doesn't want to talk about a lot. But, like, there's a very clear lack of a lot of other Shonen Jump manga that are very influential and very important that he's not showing. That, I think, show the level of, not to sit here and be like, I'm a big Shonen Jump, big Giga Brain, but there's a level of, like, understanding of the magazine's history that I think is just lacking in this video.
I mean, there's a lot lacking in the video, but, that's definitely one thing that's lacking. Anyway, let's save Shonen and make Shonen good for the first time ever, without deconstructing it, like Hunter x Hunter and JoJo. Because JoJo also deconstructs. Actually, MHA did deconstruct Shonen, so.
My Hero Academia seems to completely understand what needs to be done in order to remain engaging while also feel like the story is always moving. There hasn't been a single arc, I'd say, that hasn't been grounded in personal stakes that make the story feel impactful. Kohei Horikoshi understands what he's doing, and he's very good at it. I'm not going to get into the details with this one because I may just want to delve into My Hero Academia more deeply later, but I think it's a great way to kickstart this third wave of shonen. You know, My Hero Academia may end up being an exception, but I have a feeling that whatever big action manga end up headlighting Shonen Jump next will learn from the successes and mistakes of the anime and manga they loved growing up and do their best not to fall into the same trap. But, you know, we'll see.
So I have two things to say.
This is the end of the video.
So,
by the way.
this is the end of, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a lot to say then, if that's the end of the video. Oh my god. Okay, so first of all, it's not a surprise to me that this fucking man likes the manga by fucking Weeaboo Horikoshi, man who has thousands of dollars worth of Batman and Spider-Man and other comic book fucking Western superhero figures in his fucking apartment. You know? I don't know if you've ever seen the Horikoshi
I have not,
apartment
actually.
tour. I'm gonna find it really quick. I'm just gonna
so I
send you
can
the
watch
video.
it later. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it actually makes a lot of sense as to why Hori writes MHA the way he does. You can even just click through this quickly. This is a 2015 interview, so this video is out by the time this video happened. You can just click through. They start touring his apartment. He has statues of so many Western heroes everywhere.
Yeah, you're right. There's that looks, that's the
There's a
Batmobile
part where
from
they
Dark
show
Knight.
his shelves.
Holy shit.
And you
Green?
can just see, like...
Sorry.
Yeah, no, the man is a fucking monster when it comes to loving
Holy
Western
shit, yeah,
storytelling. I don't call him a Weeaboo for nothing.
It looks like he's wearing, looks exactly the same as, maybe a different shirt, but he looks exactly the same as the image used in the video. Like, he's at least got the mask and stuff, but it's like, yeah, this dude loves his fucking comic books.
And
comic book
you know,
heroes.
so it's not a surprise he made a superhero story, right? He took his personal influences into it. But that's like my whole thing is like, it's not a surprise that someone who looks at things from a very Western perspective likes a story from someone who very clearly has a lot of Western influences in his work.
Where with Naruto, it's like, well, I liked it as a kid, but, you know, and like the only thing he said that is that something we showed and discussed throughout the video was that like none of the series he talks about lose their personal stakes, except like he says that MHA is the only one that keeps the personal stakes.
And so I think I understand what he's talking about, and I want to talk about why. So I think that like part of the thing with why he maybe thinks that is that MHA, a big difference,
because Deku cries every arc.
No, you know what?
At this point, maybe, but
you're a piece of shit. Okay, that's
if
the
he
first
cries,
thing
that makes it personal. Because
you're a
I
terrible
cry.
person. No,
I relate.
I'm gonna kill you. You're making me want to cry right now while I'm fucking recording this fucking podcast. But
sorry,
no,
go on.
You're a terrible person. Because like, okay, MHA. What does the A stand for in MHA? Let's just get that out of the way right now. Academia. A large part of MHA is the school aspect, right? It is the fact that Horikoshi has an arc that's school focused, hero focused, school focused, hero focused. That is by design. That is part of the point of MHA. Is that these people are growing, and guess what? It's escalating every time. I wonder how he feels about the current MHA arc.
Oh, he probably hates it.
Which is, you know, because it's escalation.
They're not.
Right?
They're still kids. They can't be in the real superheroes yet. I don't know. It's escalating too. The villain's too strong. He's supposed to be.
You're losing your mind. But like, yeah, like that's like like MHA is about this. It's about the fact that they start as, you know, like they are in school, right? There is in actual it's about the escalation. It's about
the growth. The growth, which is also part of the escalation. Yeah,
the learning. Yeah, and so the whole like a large part of that is that you get these arcs of them just in school. And something that I've always pointed out that I think is interesting with MHA is that at the start of the series, all the kids, every time they have to do a boring school thing like pick a class representative, they're bored of it. They don't want to do that. They're upset they have to do school things. And then when you get to currently, anytime, like the school festival, when it's, hey guys, the school festival's coming up, they're excited that they get to live their high school lives and have that school arc. And that is by design. Horikoshi's doing that intentionally because the school aspect is a large part of the series. Naruto, in the first chapter, graduates his ninja academy.
And now he's a child soldier. Yeah,
right.
Woo.
I don't think Luffy knows what the letter A is. Ichigo is in high school, but that doesn't matter to the series almost at all, except for the fact that he meets people in high school.
Yeah, it's a set like he's a teen. If anything, it's to make it more personal and really, like you were saying, like the fact that he's in school is something a lot of people can relate to, which is why it seems more personal, than I don't know, a ghost boy fighting ghosts or something.
Right. And so, like, I understand.
One Piece isn't relatable, though, even though the main character is, like, literally a hobo who takes his ship around.
Luffy can't read. This guy clearly can't read. I don't see a difference.
Personal relation. There you go.
But, like, again, the thing that he's calling personal stakes in MHA, I'm almost positive are the school aspects, which are a key difference in MHA, but that is part of Horikoshi writing to the current otaku audience and the current, like, Jump audience, right? Because, like, I think it's fair to say that, like, there just is more anime and manga set in high school. Like, here's the problem, I think, more than anything else, right?
Go ahead.
He goes from One Piece, Bleach, and Naruto, which it all started by the 2000s. I'm 90%
Bleach
sure.
was the last one to start, and it was, like, 2000, 2001. So,
so
like
by 2002, they had all started.
Yes.
To My Hero Academia, which I'm pretty sure started 2013.
2012, 2013. So, okay, 2014.
12
years, 13 years after Bleach started, which was the newest of these.
He skips 12 years of a change in Shonen Jump, of a change in otaku culture, and in a change of manga as a whole.
Yeah.
Right? So he skips Reborn. He skips
Gintama, Toriko, Assassination Classroom. Like
Assassination Classroom is a massive one that has massively impacted every Shonen Jump manga that's come since because of how fucking popular Assassination Classroom
even though it ended quickly, which was not a thing. Like a lot because I would say that like the 90s, especially 2000s, was dominated by these long running series, which you don't get as much anymore.
Death Note is another massive one that takes place in a high school with high schoolers, right?
Yeah.
There were a bunch of series, Beelzebub is another one, right?
Yeah.
There's all these manga we can look at that took place in between this time he's talking about where the main characters are high schoolers. And that wasn't something that, you look at Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece, Ichigo's the only one in Bleach who's a high schooler, and the fact that he's a high schooler doesn't matter at all.
Well, or Hime and Chad, like, his friends are, but, like...
right, but it's more of, like, an excuse for him to know them, and at a certain point, you never see him in school again.
Yeah.
And, like, there has just been a change of characters being in school, right? If we look at Jump right now, almost every manga has a character in high school.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. Because, like, even thinking of, like, all the new ones.
I'll like, look right now. Really
Chainsaw Man is an exception, for sure. Because, like, then,
But, yeah, so MHA, they're in high school. Haikyuu, they're in high school. Black Clover, they're not. But Black Clover, I would say, is very much relying on, the previous... Like Naruto and
it feels more like those 2000s and 90s series than MHA, which is a bit more modern because exactly.
But Jujutsu Kaisen, they're in high school. We Can't Study in high school. Undead Unluck, the main female is a high school student who dropped out of school. Act Dodge in high school. Ayakashi Triangle in high school. Dr. Stone, they started in high school. Bone Collection in high school. Gravity Boys, high school aged. Mission Yozakura Family, in high school. Mashal, in school. Right? Mitama, one of the two main characters in high school. Mori King, in school. she's in like high school or something. Like almost every Jump
Yeah,
manga
like
we
there's
can
like
look at
there's
the
like
pacing.
I count like 3 where none of the characters is like actively in high school, like Dr. Stone, Undead Unluck, and Black Clover.
Well,
but,
even
I
Dr.
mean,
Stone, they started in high school.
Exactly
It's
right.
just that
School
the
just
entire
as
point of-
well, yeah, because like if you go high school age characters in like One Piece, you know, Luffy was 17
Yeah.
when the series starts, so that's obviously most everything is going to have that at least, but less than 5 series in the magazine have characters actively in high school. And even then, they still
Right.
have, like, again, high school was a part, or they're high school aged at least, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, that's a good point, because, yeah, going back, you know, to, yeah, every series in this one, Bleach is the only one that, and high school barely matters. It's all about
And-
the fantasy, the supernatural, the cool stuff, you know?
Right, and again, Bleach was the last one to start. So Bleach started in 2001. MHA started in 2014. There are 13 years of Shonen Jump you're skipping that have some of the most influential manga in the history of the magazine that have completely changed the way it works now. Now, sure, Kimetsu no Yaiba, massive seller. Sure, Tanjiro's not in high school, and that's fair to say. But when I'm looking
yeah.
through a little...
Yeah, no, like you said, like, and yeah, we can probably directly attribute that to Assassination Classroom and MHA, which center around the fact that they are in school. Like,
Well, if you want to even go, like, Death Note...
Death Note.
Bakuman, they start in high school.
True.
Katekyo Hitman Reborn, which we know
Okay,
was super
I haven't
huge
read
there.
that one. So.
He's a high school student
Okay,
in that one.
okay, there you go. Yeah, so it's not
so-
even just with those two, but okay, yeah.
Slam dunk there at school. Like,
Yeah.
there's so much you can attribute to, like, high school being a larger part. And obviously, when you're in school with a manga, like, you have to be more personal because you're talking about these characters and their schooling and the way that works. And my only problem with it is he skips 13 years of the manga's history,
Yeah.
acting like nothing happened and nothing changed, when those 13 years have clearly been insanely influential to the way the magazine runs now.
Yes. And so one thing I was going to bring up was, because he talks about, like, because earlier he has this general rule where, like, you know, big casts and stuff, like, and people are still having, are having this issue with MHA. Like, you know, maybe this guy was one of the people complaining about Kirishima getting focus in Overhaul because it doesn't matter, so to
Right.
speak. But this is the part where you're supposed to care. This is the part where you're supposed to be given personal stakes with this character. Like, no different than Bleach, no different than Naruto, no different than One Piece. Like, no
Right.
different than
There's
any
a
of these-
reason that in the Weep clubs, I was the only person who knew like almost every name in Class 1A.
Yeah, see, and
You
that
know?
because like I don't care about the MHA casts at large, and so like I thought it was funny going through the video because like aside from Dragonball, which I haven't read in a million years, like I like a lot of these series more than MHA, which is the one that, and that's the other thing. There was a tweet floating around the other day, I think I saw it, where it's like MHA fans are like, wow, MHA is just doing Naruto better, but Horikoshi's like, I don't know how many times I've read Naruto. Like, it's probably his favorite story ever, if not one of his most favorite stories, or at least one of his most favorite stories. Like, the dude loves Naruto. Like, these authors aren't throwing each other under the bus, you know? Oda respects
Right.
Kishimoto's rival. Horikoshi likes all of the big three. Like,
He sent in One Piece fan art.
yeah, when Bleach ended, he said something about, like, how he'd pretend to do Bankai in school and stuff like that.
God, I fucking love Horikoshi.
Yeah, he's a fucking dork. He made Bleach OCs. Original characters do not steal. Like,
He's what the what?
yeah, he's literally what the what. So, yeah, like, yeah, it's just so, yeah, it is sad because, you know, especially like you and what really like MHA. So, and you got idiots like this who are just saying dumb things about it to jack it off, and like, yeah, people like me who like, yeah, I don't care for it a lot. I think it's fine. I think it's got some good stuff, but like, I'm just gonna see that. I'm just gonna like, okay, we get it, you know, and because he doesn't even say that much, because he barely. I might talk about it later, so I'm not gonna finish my fucking point. So.
Yeah.
All right, I'm done with the video. Don't have anything else to say.
I am too. I think we've made our point pretty clear that this video has, I mean, just plain misinformation. I think misinterpretation of almost every story it talks about. and
No,
misunderstanding of why
every
those
single
things
one,
exist.
every single one. Like even MHA, MHA the one like MHA is the one he only kind of gets, but he also doesn't say anything about it to misinterpret it, I guess. Like,
Right, like the MHA segment is less than a minute long.
Right, so that leaves that as the only one he doesn't say anything bad about, because, you know, if you wanted the specifics, we'd probably be like, wow, you maybe barely get it at best. I have I don't have any expectations for this guy's reading ability, because he clearly can't even see the most basic and obvious stakes of any kind in any story that he talks about at any amount of length. So, you know, it's just like again, it just hits like. It's amazing. Like I'm like the One Piece is the only one he doesn't hit any of the really obvious dumb ones that I can't even think of right now. But
But he talks about One Piece for such a short.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's a 9-minute. You know, at 8:53, we're done with the content of the video. At 9 minutes, we're done with the content of the video. He talks about 6 manga.
Right, and I just think it's Dragon Ball invented Shonen, Hunter x Hunter is a deconstruction, Rock Lee versus Gaara good. Bleach, Soul Society's best arc, and it abandoned its theme. Like, he literally just hits the meme bingo. It's astonishing.
It really is impressive, I think.
Alright, but that sounds like we have about out of things to say. So,
thank you guys for watching. The next EWB will be another one with Dwarf and What the What. So I finally get a reprieve from watching terrible fucking YouTube videos. And I'm going to make sure that these two motherfuckers make a video as bad as the last two I had to watch. Holy shit.
And I'm looking forward to that Plague of Gripes Vindy stream. Let's be real.
Oh, I cannot wait. Look, twitch.tv/VindyVondo. Follow it. Turn on notifications. If you don't want to do that, follow twitter.com/VindyVondo. I will definitely make it very fucking known. Oh, I will schedule a week ahead of time with a Plague of Gripes.
I think we have to, because we're gonna spend the whole day on it. It's gonna be the Weeb Club EWB to end all Weeb Club EWBs.
We will know when it's happening. So at least follow one or two of us on Twitter and follow me on Twitch if you want to see that, because that is, as you and what have both said, one of the worst videos on YouTube.
Look, what I think the one he said is like the Nisekoi Nozaki one as one of the worst, but like the Plague of Gripes one, he literally like he can't watch it. His brain just shuts down. and he just memes the whole the video is like Cthulhu. He cannot comprehend it. Like his mind just goes like, yep, octopus with wings and a name I can't actually pronounce. It's just a Lovecraftian horror. He just can't process it. And I did, and it gave me PTSD because Nun was like, let's watch another Plague of Gripes video, and my hands started shaking for a few moments. Like, I don't know what else that is. It's a bad video. Alright, thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Yeah, thank you guys. Have a good night.